From teacher to the founder they didn't see coming. Welcome back to the TrailBLAZER pod. I'm your host Faye, and each week I bring you stories of Jewish women who are paving bold paths. This week, Chaya Krinsky joins me. She had a job since she was 13, and by her 20s she was a teacher. Then life happened. She and her husband bought a defunct furniture company, and Tov was born in their basement as they tapped into a massive gap in the market. Chaya says being a woman is her superpower. She lights up when people are a little thrown off that she's running the show. Today she's the kind of founder who shows up and tells customers the truth when everyone else hides it. That instinct is the whole brand. Let's dive in. Oh, and follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming. Chaya, welcome to the TrailBLAZER pod. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Great, thanks, Faye. Excited to be chatting today, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
My pleasure. I'm excited to get to know you. And I want to start from the very beginning. I tend to go all the way back with my guests. So can you share, can you paint us a picture? What was Chaya like as a little girl? What was life growing up?
Oh my God. Okay, that's something I've never been asked before. But so growing up, I have a really interesting background. I grew up in Long Beach, California. I was very much the rabbi's daughter. Grew up on my parents are Chabad shluchim in Long Beach, California. I grew up in a very amazing community. Went to the Hebrew Academy of Long Beach, fantastic school, had great friends. Really, I'm one of seven. I'm really smack in the middle. And yeah, I had a wonderful childhood. And really, I feel like what I was like as a kid, I mean, I feel like I see this with my own daughters. I have three daughters, and one of which is pretty much grown. She's going to be 20.
Wow.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of things stay true to your personality all the way through. So I definitely had the same go-getter, tenacious spirit all through. I am a very creative person, I think. That's what I've been told, and I love using creativity and just anything creative talks to me. And I'm also a very driven human being, and I love challenges. I love, being able to figure things out. And I love trying new things. I'm not scared of anything. I think that if you really want to get anywhere in life and do things, it's really scary. And there's a lot of things that could go wrong, but there's really nothing that could ever start without you just saying, I'm going to conquer this fear and just do it. So I was like that from when I was very little.
Wow. So that's why I asked that question, because I think even you're saying that yourself, you can see that internally, you have these qualities throughout, but a lot of times people can't. And then we go through the episode and it's like everything they said about them as a childhood is like basically them today, and just takes like a
Totally.
Yeah. But how cool that you grew up in California. I went to college in Riverside, actually. So I was.
Did you? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My little California stint.
I love California.
Yeah. And everything you're saying really sounds like the perfect recipe for, a founder and a business owner, which is pretty cool, especially in your space, the creativity and the driven and the ambition and all of that stuff. But from what I understand, you first were a teacher. You kind of followed your parents' path and became a teacher. So
That's right.
I want to ask you, we can talk about that, of course, but I want to ask you, now that you're in a completely different industry and doing something so different, do you notice any skills that you learned or anything that you harnessed as a teacher that you carry with you today?
That's such a good question. Definitely. I mean, I feel like I'm so into my daughter getting, a proper job, and it's very important to us that our children work and have something that they could call as my job, because I feel like any form of work is really a teaching experience. So whether you're a teacher like I was, or even like, someone who works at a restaurant or any sort of job, or babysitting. I did so much babysitting. I taught in so many different Hebrew schools growing up. I had a job from when I was 13 years old.
Wow.
3 times a week. I would drive like an hour and a half to Yorba Linda, and I taught in school. So, I really think that every single opportunity, and that's what I call a job. I think a job really is an opportunity because it's a growth channel, could really teach you skills that are the same from what now I'm a founder at Tov, but the same responsible, driven, and professional etiquette that you need to have at one job, which is a teacher. Of course, you are a customer service person when you are a teacher, right? You are taking care of these children. I taught 2 and 3 year olds. So imagine that this is the parents' first time. Yes. And it was a very professional school and in a very affluent neighborhood. So this was the parents' first time that they were dropping off their children. That was my responsibility to be professional and to make sure that I was giving these children the very best education that their parents were signing up for. So I think the same follows through when you're a teacher to what I'm doing today. And there are different skills that I definitely learned being a teacher. I was lucky enough to be able to use that creative channel in preschool. You got to make loads and loads of different creative projects. My bulletin boards were amazing. I mean, literally, we had the director of the school asked me if I could come out at that time. There was no Instagram or like internet for that matter. But we had this idea to come out with this curriculum book based on led by my bulletin boards because I used to go all out. I would spend hours and hours and hours on everything. I mean, like Har Sinai was 3D and like with lights and everything. It was just like everything was really interactive. But it was just one way to use creativity, right? Like if you're able to do it and it gives you joy, that's what it did for me. So yeah, definitely learned so much just about everything, just being a teacher.
Did it help you with like, I'm sure as a founder you're talking to investors or however you manage it, you're pitching to people, your partnerships, whatever your business looks like. Do you think it gave you that kind of the public speaking skill that maybe some people have to learn on the job?
Totally. I
Yeah.
mean, public speaking is such a huge part of everything. When you're a founder, you have to do, I mean, I'm doing it right now, right? You're on so many
Yeah.
different founder stories, podcasts, lucky enough to be able to do that. And even just on Instagram, I'm someone who explains my product through video, right? We're a strong e-com brand. I am the one that's behind the camera
Yeah.
explaining my product. Of course, those are all public speaking moments. And being a teacher gave me that skill set from the very beginning. I started teaching when I was 13 years old, with students looking at me and waiting for me to explain to them whatever I was teaching. Doing it correctly is what makes a good teacher. So my children are always saying, well, they're a great teacher or they're an okay teacher. And whenever they're talking about a teacher that's just really stellar, that teacher is someone who is very eloquent, someone who is able to confidently explain whatever they're learning. So I think that being a teacher definitely gave me that first confidence boost and certainly gave me a very strong background. And there were so many different moments where I had to learn public speaking. I mean, I was 21 years old in parent teacher conferences, and I had to be able to explain to parents if there were negatives, positives, that was me that had to really carry over that message. So public speaking is a very, very important skill for anyone who wants to go into of course, go into any business, but especially if you are trying to be a founder of some amazing business, really public speaking is something that is extremely important.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that because I feel like a lot of young people listening that maybe they're at a point in their life where they have to pivot and they're maybe not using their degree like they thought they would. And I think people can get really down on themselves or really, just like why did I waste my time? And it's important to hear from people how everything that you go through and all the jobs and opportunities as you call them really just carry you through to the next thing. So I appreciate you
Totally.
elaborating on that. Can you give me the short version of how did you go from being a teacher to then, you and your husband, founding this business? What happened there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was a teacher when my husband bought a defunct furniture company called Coleman Furniture. He bought it just out of sheer necessity. It was right when the Lehman Brothers disaster happened. And really we just purchased our first home and we were like, what are we going to do? So he is as much as a go-getter as I am. He is like double me on steroids. And he was like, no way, we're going to figure this out with everything. That's just his attitude. And he decided he was going to buy this business and he knew nothing about furniture in full transparency. I mean, he didn't even know how to pronounce the word buffet. He used to call it buffet because he's a Warren Buffett fan,
That's
but
so cute.
it was great. But like everything he does, he figured it out and he figured out how to turn it into what it is today and what it was when we first started Tov. So he was going through the motions of selling furniture and realizing that, yeah, all this furniture was great, but there was nothing that was chic stylish, and affordable. Like it just didn't exist. And he saw this niche and he was like, all right, what are we going to do? Like, I see that there's massive potential for this exact category in the furniture space, and knew that I was creative. I always really loved interior design. I absolutely love specifically furniture. That's like something I've always really
Wow.
very much loved. So he brought me in, just, asked me if I wanted to take part and be able to do it. I juggled the two at first. So I was still traveling the 3 hour commute to Greenwich, Connecticut, which what I was doing, and then trying to help as much as I could at Tov, but it was really, really difficult to be able to do both. So when I could, I gave in my notice at the end of the year and said I wouldn't be able to come back. And that was really difficult for me because I love teaching. But that's how really Tov started. Just, it was Bruce's idea of making sure that he was honed into the market and seeing those gaps. So that's a really big part of selling something great. Is obviously you need to have a great product, but figuring out what is missing in different industries and where your niche could be is such a important part of things, an important part of the process. And that's really how Tov was created. That was the story started in our basement, literally, of our home. And it grew with a lot of sweat and tears. And, that doesn't end. It continues. It's just a different amount of sweat and different types of tears, but, we're still growing it, and it's so fun.
Wow. It sounds like a very classic founder story from your end. You had this other job that you were doing, and then eventually you're like, this is too much. I can't do both of those jobs. Um, Top, from what I was reading, is a very female-focused furniture brand at this point, right? I don't know
Yeah.
if it was always right now. Was this intentional from the beginning? And if so, why? Where did this come from?
Yeah. So the female, I guess, everything is laced with femininity somewhere. So it's a very feminine look. So the actual furniture has a very feminine flair to it, but it's also a very feminine led brand. So most of our staff members are female. Decisions very much are from a feminine perspective, and our shopper is a feminine shopper. It's primarily a feminine shopper. So it really goes from the very beginning of things till the end. It ends with that female shopper. So yes, it has always been very much a female brand. The very first thing we did was obviously make a logo, right? And that logo was pink. Pink has been our signature color, in different shades from the very start of it. And femininity has been very much the focus all the way through. So, I don't like the word girl power, but I'm a huge advocate for, females being amazing. We can do anything. We are incredible. And I mean, that's really just so fun to be able to bring femininity into, and that soft femininity and powerful femininity into the business.
Just why don't you like the word girl power?
I just think it's very cliche. I think that it kind of like trumps the power of men too. And I think that everything has to be done as a unit together. Bruce and I are very much equal. Everyone asks us, like, how do you two work together? Like, we've been together, we're going to be hitting 22 years, and we stay in our own lanes very much. Like, it's a very healthy and good way to run things, in my opinion. He does his thing, I do mine. We talk all day long. We run things by each other. We support each other, but we very much respect each other's decisions, and we stay in our own lane. But from just the girl power thing, I think it became that, like, girls are everything, males are not. And I think that if you work as a team and you're able to use your strength, your feminine strength I'm lucky enough to use it with Bruce's male strength and all the males in the industry that we do have, and in our business, you really are able to create something so powerful.
Yeah. I'm glad I asked that, because I think it's important to, if you believe in it, not to brush over that, because it's an important point. I think we've lost that, almost like that balance, the yin and yang, and having both. And you actually, you read my mind, because that was going to be my next question, how you and Bruce kind of work together, because so many people, me and my husband personally would love to work together. It hasn't happened yet, but most people would say they would never work for their spouse. Yeah. My husband and I are like, we want to bring work home. That's what we want to do. Like, we want it to be like,
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I get that.
Yeah, you're a cool example.
Because I love this question, and it's funny that this is our number one question we get.
Really?
Beyond everything else, and we do some pretty cool things. People are fascinated by how it works. They don't understand the dynamic. And it sounds so cliche, but we truly are best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to do, there are really a lot of highs and lows to our day, right? So
Yeah.
business is kind of like, you, every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, it's like a battle. You just,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, there's highs and lows and highs and lows. So you're doing them together when you work together. But I think the key, really the key to working together is respect. We really, really respect and value each other. We value each other's opinions. We value each other's like thoughts. And, when one of us is having a tough moment, it's important that that's it's just a temporary tough moment. It's not, it doesn't blink at the day. It's a moment in business. So at the start of things, obviously, I was coming from a teaching position and working together. I really, really learned from the best. I learned from Bruce, who would say like, this is business, right? You're going to have one 10-minute period of the day where you are ready to hit the roof. And then the next 10 minutes are just a wonderful, blissful 10 minutes. It's just, that's the nature of business. There's a lot of ups and downs. You need to learn this. Like, this is just how it goes. And you've got to be able to have toughen your skin and be able to get through it. So that was a fun journey to be able to go
Wow.
through and learn that skill. It's an important tool.
Who
But
better to do that
yeah,
with your partner, right? Like that's
yep.
the coolest thing.
If you have a good teacher and your partner and you're working
Yeah.
together, I feel like it's just the biggest blessing. So totally.
You did say, starting a new business in an industry that this is, and again, I read some interviews that you've done in the past, probably like a long time ago, that it never really accepted women and it was kind of a gamble. So this was in
Yeah.
2021. Do you think that sentiment has changed in this industry around accepting women? And has it caused you, like as an individual, any imposter syndrome, self-doubt, or did it kind of propel you forward? And you're like, you know what, I'm going to prove them all wrong.
Yeah. And there definitely are more women joining the industry, but unfortunately, they are not in founder seats. So
Mm,
women are joining as buyers, they are joining as interior designers. It's a very familiar field, but they are not founders. So the founder seat is primarily male,
mm,
and the executives are primarily male. The ones that make the big decisions at the top, they call them the top 100 stores, which are the largest retail stores that sell furniture. They are male. So it is a very male dominated industry. Definitely that still is true.
when you walk into a room, and I love this topic. So when you walk into a room as a female founder, do you see yourself as a female founder, or do you just see yourself as a founder?
Yeah, I see myself as a female founder and I
Mm,
say it so many times. That is my biggest superpower.
mm,
100%. I feel like we are given such a gift when we are able to channel it correctly. And it is my biggest superpower. I'm so excited when people are like a little thrown off and are like, wait, she's,
yeah.
she's the one, like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. But I think it's an incredible superpower because we have a lot of gifts given to us that, are natural and we don't have to really work hard to be able to use.
Hmm.
And I think that it's an incredible thing to be able to use all of the things that we're so good at. Women are incredible multitaskers. We're just
Yeah.
naturally really great at it. I see it with all of the, the workers and the team members in at Tov who are female. They are great. Generally, they're great multitaskers. They are able to do so much, like so quickly and efficiently. And I think that that's a great superpower to be able to use. So yes, I love it. And I think that being female is a superpower.
I love it. I get such a cool opportunity of sitting with women, female founders, because I get two like sides of the coin. There's the women like you who see it as a superpower, and then there's the women that are like, I'm not a female founder. I'm just a founder, and it's coming from a similar place. It's just picked apart differently. So I really get like a
Yeah.
little like I'm a little journalist like noticing what people and how they deal with it. But I agree with you. I think also I'm a founder too, by the way, but I'm not a mom, and I've always been nervous about being a mom and interfering with business. And we can talk about that a whole different episode. But I've had one female founder tell me that when she became a mom, she noticed how amazing she was at multitasking because she had to juggle all these different things, and it actually propelled her forward. And that was such a cool perspective to me that I never heard anyone talk about. You're doing so
So
many things
true.
at once, and it's just like you hone that skill. So I think that's really cool. You were talking about how it's your superpower. You love when you're kind of like proving people wrong when they have this image of you. You did say that your whole life you grew up hearing people say, "Oh, you look like a Barbie," and you kind of, you have the blonde hair and you like the pink, and right, and
Yeah.
comments like that used to bother you. but they don't anymore. And just to quote you, you're like, what's wrong with Barbie? Absolutely nothing. So
Yeah.
do you feel like initially this created a chip on your shoulder, like you were saying, to prove people wrong? Or it was just this, like, what didn't you like about it?
That's a really good question and really deep, because it's a vulnerable place for me. I don't really discuss,
Mm,
um, because it is something that I really have to dig deep, and it's a hard conversation
mm-hmm.
because you have to be really real with yourself. But
Yeah.
yes, I think that growing up, that's what people said, and they were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh my God, you look like Barbie. You must be this, right?" The
Right.
stereotype is so
Yeah.
strong. They're like, "She's blonde. She's this.
Yeah.
She's that. Like she must be." She's the stay-at-home wife, and that's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. I think it's amazing if that's what you strive to be, and that's great. But that is how it's
Mm-hmm.
just a stereotype of how it
Yeah.
goes. Or like that's just who she is. She's just pretty
Yes.
girl, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it did. Like I remember being very young, like 12, 13 years old, and when I would hear it, I was like, I'm much more than that. Like
Yeah.
I'm not just that. There's so much more to me. I have a brain in my head.
Yeah.
I have ideas that matter. So those are all things that I feel like I had to work really hard to prove, not only to others, but to myself, that I had more than that.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, which happens when you get older, right? You just become really comfortable in your skin, and it's incredible to experience
Mm-hmm.
it. But I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I could be both. And Barbie is every single founder and every single working woman. There's a Barbie for her. So I think that it became something that I embraced and I loved.
Yeah, I genuinely appreciate you sharing this because I kind of dealt with a similar thing myself that I only recently like shared with people. Like I actually wrote a Substack about it. When I was in middle school, our principal would come in
Hmm.
every single year and be like giving certificates like best of Chumash, best in davening, and mine was always best in smile. Like she has the best smile. And I'm like, is
Wow.
that is that it? Like I just have a nice smile and it subconsciously that was my whole I would say teenage and early 20s, like proving that, like being pretty or cute is like the least interesting thing about me. And I went through so many different versions of proving that that's not me and like covering that up. And so I genuinely relate to what you're saying. And I just hit 30 and I'm finally at a place where I feel like I can be more feminine because I know who I am. Like I know what I'm capable of. Like I don't, it doesn't, it's not anymore kind of like just, blocking everything else, So I think
Yeah.
a lot of people listening can relate to this, and I know it's like a vulnerable thing to talk about, but when I read you saying that, it was important, it helped me. So I appreciate it.
I think that in society, like especially because I grew up in a very similar world,
Yeah.
it's very much like a acceptable thing to
Yes.
be able to focus on that end of things, like a smile award or even a looks award or she's
Yeah.
so beautiful and all of that. And that's of course like great and very complimentary, but I wish there was more of a push to recognize different
Yeah.
skill sets and different creative and amazing things that might be happening that
Yeah.
are not at the surface that you may have to dig a little deeper to be able to recognize in girls. So,
Yeah.
um,
It's
yeah, I think
important.
society is still doing that, but it is a really good thing for us to strive to change.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of it too. Like I see someone in the street and I make this mental image of, oh, she must be this way. And then I'm like, wait, you hated when people did this to you. Why are you doing this to this other person? But it's just almost so
Totally.
ingrained in us. But I think you just need to talk about it more. So thank you.
Yeah.
You've said that your dream, and again, it's very cool that you're working with your husband on this, but you obviously you're two different people. So you've said that your dream was to create a cult company, which is I love that you said that. And you've
Yeah.
managed to do that is what you said. What does a cult company mean to you and why was this something that was so important to you?
I think a cult company means that fans, which it is fans, right? Because it's customers who are ecstatic to buy your product, which
Yeah.
makes them a fan. Um, Fans really feel proud of their purchase from your company and they are excited to take part in your events, excited to be a part of your story and just like obsessed with what you're doing. And I think that that is something that really could happen when you are extremely authentic and real with your followers. So back when COVID was happening, there was a crazy situation going on with container ships. And the container ships were, let's just say, they were being really not very straight with what was
Mm.
going on. With they were upcharging normal container
Wow.
costs are a couple $1,000s at that. They were upcharging, charging companies $20,000 more to be able to ship your containers, which you badly needed your product because that's when people were buying and they knew that. So we didn't hide behind it like every one of our competitors and said, well, we're not going to tell the story. We're not going to explain it to customers because they're going to get scared. They're going to run the other way. We're in the actual, we went to the container ship. We went to the, we went on an airplane and went to the ports and did stories at the ports explaining what was going on. We went to the different conferences that they had to explain what was happening, not because we wanted to oust anybody. It was because we wanted to explain to our followers what was happening so they could be educated as shoppers. Buying a piece of furniture it's a big purchase, and we want customers to understand what they're buying and feel happy and proud of their purchase and really understand where and how it came to be, and that we weren't playing any games, and sometimes things were beyond our control, and there was a reason for these change of pricing. So we're very transparent as a company. We do it with everything that we do, from showing customers how we create the product. We have loads of stories that happen when we're in the factory. Bruce and I are very much like founders that are on the floors of our factory. So whenever we go, we do a lot of video content. Yeah, we're boots on the ground for sure. Yeah. So transparency is a very important for us. So I think that creating a cult brand requires you to be transparent with your customers and really stay true to your brand and stay true to what you're doing. From the very start of Tov, we wanted to make sure that our customers were buying furniture that was fabulous, very, very great quality. Our quality is amazing, but really affordable, and be able to have customers be able to create beautiful spaces in their homes without too much, and keeping that affordable and value proposition strong through everything. So I think that if you are true to your customers and true to your brand, that really helps create that cult following. And of course, being aligned with the right brands and influencers and celebrities helps as well. But I think that is really the basis of creating that.
But it is a risk, right? When you're doing something like that and like, this is authentic to us, it is kind of a risk to put that out. I think that's why a lot of companies
totally
don't. Are you naturally a risk taker, or it's something you had to learn when you kind of became a founder?
I am 100% a risk taker. I think that life is so boring if you don't take risks, especially in business. I think that it's just, you're not going to be able to grow, and you will not be able to experience anything new if you do not take risks. So yes, it's a comfortable place to be able to sit at your desk and be able to, run a couple of emails and do your Zoom meetings and then sell your product in the same way you've been selling. But if you want to create change and you want to grow, which everybody wants to do that's business, you're going to have to take risks. And I definitely am a risk taker. Of course, I'm a normal person and I have my fears, which those are very, very important to me to conquer. So the fears that I have, I'm very aware of, and I want to be able to conquer them. I have a crazy fear of flying, for example. And yes, and people know that about me, and I do have a lot of business owners that reach out to me and ask for help. And of course, I've gotten help over the years to be able to deal with this. But I am I'm going away to, I'm doing something very new and going to a place where I have to get on this tiny little airplane tomorrow that I would never, 10 years ago, I would be like, it's not happening. Like, I'm not getting on there. It's like the tiniest little airplane. And like, that's probably my biggest fear, but I'm so excited to be able to have that understanding that 7 minutes after it's only a 7-minute flight, 7 minutes after when I land, I will be like, you did it. And that feeling is so much greater than the fear feeling. So
that's a great mindset.
That is like the mindset with everything. You fears are just liars, and they get in the way, and they're just challenges, right? They're bumps in the road. But if you really are someone who wants to be able to conquer your fears, everyone is capable of it. It just takes a very strong willpower and understanding that you can do it, but it's going to take a lot. It takes work.
Yeah, another version of fear, and kind of what you were saying is, changing and growing. For a lot of business owners get really comfortable in what's working, right? And they're either prideful or afraid of changing it. But Tuf seems to like constantly be innovating and finding little gaps, even though you're already doing things right? But it's like just this continuous it seems like from what I've studied, it just seems like this is a constant theme in the business, history. How do you stay on top of the market to notice that and like make those changes on the fly and be, the pivots that we all talk about it as founders, but like not everyone actually does it and does it well.
Yeah. So that's a line that my husband says all the time. Bruce says it, and he says, like, if you are not comfortable with change, you're going to die. You either change or you die, right?
Mm,
Meaning your business. And that's 100% true for any
yeah.
industry. Times are changing faster than ever. Consumers are smarter. They are more educated. They do their homework before they buy your product, and they do a lot of homework. They shop around, they price match, they're doing all of it now. So I think that if you ask me how do I stay on top of different
Yeah.
trends and understanding change, I am someone whose head is not in the sand. I do market research all day long. So a large portion of my week is spent on market research, whether it be product research, trend research,
Mm,
social media research, anything that's happening in the market, which directly obviously is happening in the world. I'm very much aware of it. I do my homework. I'm interested. You've got to stay on top of these things to be able to understand at the end of the day your shopper and your product and what you're
mm-hmm.
doing and the pulse of the marketplace. So I think that if you stay on top of things, and by the way, it's very time consuming because
I'm
you've got
sure.
so many other things to
Yeah.
do. You don't want to necessarily do all
Mm-hmm.
this market research and has someone handing you a paper and saying, here's what's going on, here are the trends. I need to make sure that I believe in those trends, that I
Mm-hmm.
like those trends. So there are all these furniture trends out there and design trends out there that, yes, they're trendy, but they're not the top shopper trendy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an important thing to be able to understand your demographic,
Mm-hmm.
your shopper. You need to study them like you study the back of your hand.
Wow.
If you do not understand them and you do not understand your shopper, you will not be able to sell your product in the velocity that you want, that you could potentially be
Mm-hmm.
selling them. Once you understand your shopper, and by the way, your shopper changes all the time. So understanding your evolving shopper, you will be in a really good place. So I have to say ahead of things, I'm a very like aware person and
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of market research.
It's not only time consuming, but it's also a lot of founders I find are just like, oh, but it's working already, right? And so like, why do I need to just focus on what's working? And it's hard to get out of that space. It's the same thing with like the pride of
Yeah.
I found the solution, and but we sometimes we're humans and we get in our own way of that. So I think I've sat across virtually across like 80 women, and a lot of
Wow.
them are found, yeah. And so I get to study this, which I'm really grateful for. But I think a theme I noticed is that women have really strong inner, voices in our guts, but a lot of us are very afraid to listen to it, or, we're all these like societal, constraints on, or like we're told not to listen to it, be rational, don't, you said that one of the character traits that helps you be successful is trusting your gut. Is this
Yeah.
something, or your inner voice, is this something you had to polish, or are you naturally just, you always like this, and you're like, I know my gut got me, I know my voice got me, and just followed it at all times?
Yeah. Let's see. So what does it mean when you talk about your gut?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean when people say, I'm trusting your gut?
Mm-hmm.
Your gut is,
And
it's your brain noticing patterns. It's your brain noticing energy and inconsistencies or red flags before you can fully explain them with words.
right.
So I think that is that, and that's true, especially in business. Um, I have learned to trust my gut because when you are your business and you are the one that's calling the shots, I guess you could say, and making sure that, like, for example, at the end of the day, the look, feel, and taste of the brand is mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm that tastemaker for the brand. If I'm not able to trust my gut and I'm not able to believe in my vision, then it feels very, very misguided and very confusing to anyone who's watching, buying, and selling Tov. So to be able to trust your gut means that you really fully believe in your vision. And I think that if you're able to do that and fully believe that you know what you're doing, and of course, sometimes your gut is misguided.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I say I'm going to trust my gut, I'm definitely wrong and I run into a wall and I have to
Mm-hmm.
learn. Obviously, there's moments of learning and teaching
Yeah.
moments. But I think it's an important thing to trust your gut and know that you're okay with whatever the outcome be, even if it means that your gut is going to get you to a place where you're not going to have the outcome that you so desire.
Right.
So I think also when we talk about trusting your gut, it means being okay that at the end of the day, it could be a failure. And your gut may lead you to that. So I've come to a place in my life where I look at all those moments where sometimes you do have failures and you believe that something's going to happen. Like for example, let's take it on a product level. I create something and manufacture something that I say, wow, this is going to sell like crazy. This is so needed. The marketplace is going to respond to this in such a positive way, and it doesn't, and it flops, and it just doesn't do well. I'm okay to just say, let's go, move on. Like this was one moment, let's go to the next one. So I don't ever harp. I just think that you've got to be able to be very flexible and adaptable, and that's part of following your gut.
Yeah, you explained that really well. Are you a perfectionist in any way?
Definitely. I think every business owner is a perfectionist when it comes to their trade. And anyone that tells you they're not is not being truthful, because a really good business owner is definitely a perfection when it comes to something of the business. So you have business owners who are not perfectionists when it comes to answering all their emails on time, or making sure their office is in beautiful condition. But I think every business owner that I have met is a perfectionist in some sense with something. But I definitely am a perfectionist when it comes to product. And when it comes to the brand, I am a perfectionist because I really want the brand, which is so sacred and something that we have worked so hard to build, and really just I call it like, it's like our our baby, right?
Yeah.
We've worked so
I
hard
was
to
I was
create
like
this.
I was like lip saying it. Yeah. Babe.
Yeah, it is. Your brand becomes your baby, because
Yeah.
you've got to protect it, and you've got to make sure that you're aligned with the right partners, and you're doing the right thing, and you're saying the right thing, and your messaging is correct. But I think that it's very much that way. So
Yeah.
yes, I definitely am a perfectionist. I'm a very I'm a person who's
Yeah.
very clean. My home is very important to me. It's my safe haven. But I'm also very easygoing about things that don't really matter to me. So,
Right.
but I think that the things that matter in business, you've got to be a perfectionist, because you're being serious about the things that matter.
Yeah. So let me ask you advice on that. As a perfectionist, and I'm kind of like that as well. How do you not ruminate and do things over and over to get it perfect, and kind of never press go or never press launch and never put it out to the public? Because it's like such a fine line between making it perfect and never getting it out there.
I think the perfect balance is what we spoke about before, which is the risk taker component. So yes, I am a perfectionist, and things are very important to me that they're perfect. Like I will go ahead and change fonts 10 times with our marketing team to make sure that an R or a T is the way it should be, so it conveys the right brand messaging when we're putting out any of our content or any of our our visuals. But I think being a risk taker and being flexible, that's a really important part of things. You've got to be flexible to be able to run your business. If you are not flexible, you're going to get stuck, and you're going to get stuck on things that don't matter. And it's all about movement and making sure that you're continuing and putting your efforts where you're going to see results. So sometimes I get questions from different business owners who I mentor, and they say, well, this is exactly their problem. They're focusing on this. It's somebody who is creating a beautiful clothing line for small children, and she was like, I can't put out the line because I'm not like proud of the pajama collection yet. And I'm like, just launch,
Yeah.
just launch. You've got to start. Like the pajama collection can always come as a separate component of things, and you can do a drop. There's so many things you can do with the right marketing head, but just launch. You've got to just go ahead and do it, because if you're going to just keep trying to make it perfect, it just won't happen. So being a risk taker, remaining flexible, but staying a perfectionist where it matters and you're going to see results, which is ROI, right? It's all about the ROI. That's, I think, is a great balance.
It's like the perfect recipe, but it's almost like people who are perfectionists are not the ones that are risk takers, right? Because and then you need all of the pieces in the puzzle to be a great founder, I think. And it's skills you can learn, right? Like you were saying, you're mentoring this woman, you need mentors. You need to be able to listen to people, which is why I have the podcast, because we don't naturally all have these skills that we need, but I think it can very much be learned along the way. Do you agree?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. You're a wife, you're a business partner, you're a mom, you're a business owner. How do you feel about the word balance?
Oh, balance. Balance is so important. I love the word. I know that people are like sick of the word, but I think it's such an important word. I can't even tell you. Every night, my husband and I go for a walk. We walk our dog. We
Oh,
have a huge dog and we walk him every night. It gets us outside and gets us moving. We
what
love it.
dog do you have?
But it also, we have a golden retriever,
Oh,
a
I have a
big
German
guy.
Shepherd.
Um, you do. He's the cutest. They're
Oh,
the
yeah,
best.
the best.
And like literally, oh my
They
God, the
keep you
best
sane,
creatures.
right? Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
really. But anyway, we walk him at night and we get to chat during that time about everything. And we're always talking about balance. Balance is something that is sometimes you have great balance. Sometimes you feel like I'm doing a great job today. I'm doing a great job this week.
Hmm.
I'm figuring out, my kids' schedules and emails to the school and I'm doing it all and I'm
Yeah.
doing my, all the requirements for business and all my business tasks great and I'm taking care of myself, big one, right?
Hmm.
Doctor's visits and all the beauty that we need to do as a woman and everything else. I'm making sure that you're on top of your family and feeding your family and making sure everyone is happy and content and healthy. Sometimes you're great. And then sometimes the balance is so off balance
Hmm.
and recognizing it and saying, I need to do better. And I'm having an off moment, day, week,
Hmm.
maybe even month. I've had those. Is important to recognize it and be honest with yourself. You'll always get back on track if
Mm.
you are able to acknowledge it and use the right tools to be able to do it. Like telling yourself you cannot do it all. You're human. I rely on so much help to be able to do what I want to do. I love hosting. I love having people over my home. I love being there for my kids. They're number one. Nothing takes precedent over them. I will always choose their activities, their whatever is happening at their school functions. I'm always there. Asking me to spend time with them. I will drop everything to be able to spend time with them. So, but doing it all needs balance and you need to be able to say like there are things that just are not going to get done and I have to be okay with that. And number two is again, I'm going to quote my husband. He is obsessed with his calendar. Like his calendar runs his life. When I tell you he on his calendar he has workout, I'm not joking. Now the trainer comes and is standing at the door and he knows that it's 9:30 and he's got to do, but he needs to mentally know like this block of time it's for his balance, right? It's so that he knows that
Yeah.
his day is balanced and he can see it visually and understand that that's the flow of his day. So calendar is everything and I've had to learn the hard way because I wasn't so into it. I
Hmm.
wasn't such a great calendar girl
Now you're a
that I've got
calendar
to be
girl.
better with it.
Hmm.
Now I'm a calendar girl and I'm getting better. But I use it now and I appreciate and live by it.
Yeah. I asked this question because I have some women again, they swear by balance and then others are like, I don't like the word balance, I use a different word. But then we're really
Yeah.
saying the same thing at the end of the day. We just have different words
Yeah.
for it. My last question for you, Chaya, is take 17, 18-year-old Chaya. If she were to meet
Uh,
you now, what would she think of you?
17, 18-year-old me. Oh God. I was not a fun teenager.
No?
um, no, I was a teenager that took lots of risks and unfortunately, I'm not a rule abiding person. I don't, I like, I like breaking the rules. I think that
Mm-hmm.
rules are meant to be broken and sometimes that did not work in my favor. I
Mm-hmm.
also grew up in a very stringent community
Yeah.
and lifestyle and that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I grew up with the most loving parents and siblings, and that was just everything. So, I think that 17, 18-year-old me would have been very proud. Would have been just really excited about what she saw. And when I was younger, I said, "You're going to do this, and you're going to do something great, and you're going to make sure that you're going to do something good with that greatness." Like Tov is not all about selling furniture. We do
Mm-hmm.
really try to do really good things with our platform, with our with our business, and continue to bring good into the world. And that's very important to us. And I think that part of things I would have been really proud and happy about. So I think that 17, 18-year-old girls who many of them I talk to, and I think that the, the generation today is an incredible generation. They are smart and they are witty and they are educated and they're awesome and they're growing up in an incredible time. So I think that if you put your mind to things, and it sounds
Mm-hmm.
so cliche, but it's the truth. If you work hard enough, I work I work really
Yeah.
my rear off, and if you work hard enough,
Yeah.
you'll be able to achieve anything.
Yeah. It's cool because I think, you harnessed that risk taking that you're like, I was not a great teenager, but it's kind of like that same skill. You just now learn to wait. Oh, like you found a path to harness it into something that's amazing, right? And you just like found
I
out.
mean, my mom, it's totally true. And I know I'll never forget when I was 16 years old and I was having this like tough moment. And my
Mm-hmm.
mother's like, yeah, maybe you won't be the person who others want,
Mm-hmm.
expect you to be, but you're going to be your amazing self. Like you're
Oh,
going to go great places and you have the tenacity and you have the spirit and you have everything it takes to be able to be whoever you need to become and you want to become.
that's
Like just know
beautiful.
that you have it. So yes, it's just having that tenacious spirit and having that like personality. I was a teenager with a lot of personality and a lot of spirit. I love that in teenagers. When I see it, I'm crazy for it. I think that that's
Yeah.
just what it takes. And yeah, I
That's
think
a
that it's
really good
something that's,
perspective because I'm terrified of having a teenager like me. Like I'm like I don't
oh,
know
they,
how I don't know how my mom handled me. I just
teenagers are the best.
oh
They're
my
the
God,
best.
I've
They're
never heard anyone
emotional
say
roller
that.
coasters. They're emotional roller coasters, but they're the absolute best.
Oh,
And they're I have two now, well, I have almost three in my home right now,
wow.
and we spend a lot of time talking. I mean, there's so many
Mm-hmm.
conversations and teaching moments and things that they just want to be able to grow and become good humans.
Yeah.
So I think that as long as you're willing to listen and be there as a mom and be a listening ear,
Teacher Kaya.
you'll raise good kids. And my kids are awesome.
You
Thank
make it
God.
sound a lot less scary than I think. You so thank you.
Because I'm fearless, right? So when you're
Yeah, I love
fearless, you're
it.
like raising kids. I got this too. So
It's a good
yeah,
perspective. Thank you so
they're the
much,
best.
Chaya. It was so nice to meet
Of
you
course,
and to
Faye.
learn about you
Nice
and your business.
chatting.